Hello, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to the Wesleyan Connection. This podcast is primarily for the clergy and laity of the Holston Annual Conference. Join with me now as I take a look around the Connection and share some of the things happening in the churches of our annual conference. Good morning. This is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to this week's edition of the Wesleyan Connection podcast. A look at the people, places, events, ministries, things happening in the Holston Annual Conference. Well, sometimes that is. Today actually is an interview with someone that's not part of the Holston Annual Conference, but that is related to the Holston Annual Conference in a very significant way. While I was at Annual Conference this year, I had an opportunity to talk with Jack Ewing, Executive Director of the Lake Junaluska Assembly, and he shared with me information about the lake and about the southeastern jurisdiction, and so I'm going to be sharing that interview with you in just a moment. But before I get there, I want to say something about another interview. For those that have been following the podcast, you may have remember that a few weeks back I posted the interview with Bishop Graves, and prior to the interview in my monologue, as I'm doing now, I mentioned the fact that, well, there was a technical glitch and an error of some sort, and I missed the first interview, and it just wasn't on the tape recorder. And Bishop Graves most graciously gave me a second interview. Well, as I was preparing Jack Ewing's interview, I discovered the technical glitch. Instead of pressing the stop button at the end of Jack's, I merely pressed the pause button, and so Bishop Graves was right on the end then of the Jack Ewing interview. So next week, I'm going to post that original interview that I did with Bishop Graves, and I hope you will enjoy that. It will be very similar to the one that I did publish, but it will be the first interview rather than the second one. So today, Jack Ewing. Hope you enjoy our conversation. I'm talking today with Jack Ewing, who's the Executive Director at Lake Junaluska. And I know that means he's not technically part of the Holston Annual Conference, but Holston Annual Conference is technically part of the Southeastern jurisdiction.
Absolutely, and we are thrilled that for the last 40 years in a row, Lake Junaluska has had the opportunity to host the Holston Annual Conference here at Lake Junaluska. So while technically I am not a part of the Holston Conference, I can tell you that Lake Junaluska certainly feels like it is.
How does Lake Junaluska fit in with the broader picture of the Southeastern jurisdiction?
Well, as you know, Lake Junaluska was founded more than 100 years ago, and not officially at the time a part of the Methodist Church, but it was founded by Methodists, and in 1938 became formally a part of the Methodist Church, and then, of course, through a number of iterations became a part of the southeastern jurisdiction of the United Methodist Church, officially in 1988. But we have always attempted to meet the needs and serve United Methodists throughout the jurisdiction. The reality is, though, that we're a large place that has a lot of sleeping rooms, and when the Salvation Army came to us and said we'd like to have our event at Lake Junaluska, we said, that's marvelous. Since then, we've expanded to have the Seventh-day Adventists have an event here. The Church of the Brethren have an event here. We host Catholic groups. We host Baptist groups. We're ecumenical, but we are first and foremost a United Methodist Conference and Retreat Center associated with the Southeastern jurisdiction.
You talk about hosting in the rooms and stuff, but it's more than just that. You provide educational opportunities as well, don't you?
We do. We have programming at Lake Junaluska, not nearly as much as we had before 2008 when the jurisdiction made the decision to no longer subsidize operations at Lake Junaluska. But we still have youth events, we have adult programming that we do. Of course, we have worship in Stewart Auditorium throughout the summer. We do a variety of programs at Lake Junaluska, what we refer to as sponsored events. Those are the things that we're completely in control of.
On the unsponsored events, say the Salvation Army does an event here, is that open to others, or is that pretty much a closed kind of event?
There are very few events at Lake Junaluska that would not want anybody and everybody to walk through the doors and be a part of that. So the Salvation Army would be that way, the Seventh-day Adventists would be that way. It's a pretty amazing experience for people to live here either seasonally or throughout the year and have the opportunity to come down to concerts and programs and sermons. And they're going to get a pretty wide variety of theological perspectives.
I noticed that you have been doing some renovations on terrace. So you plan on renovating Lambeth or anything along those lines?
We have just, or will this week, finish the painting of the outside of the terrace. We actually renovated the inside in 2015, so a couple of years ago. So that project will be completed. We're in the process right now of renovating the meeting spaces in the Harrell Center. And then next winter, we hope that we can do to Lambeth what we were able to do to the terrace by upgrading the sleeping rooms in Lambeth. So by the time the Holston Conference comes back to Lake Junaluska in the summer of 2018, Lambeth is going to be in great shape.
When you think about the ministry that goes on or has gone on at Lake Junaluska, where do you see the future? Where is Lake Junaluska headed in terms of how it's going to relate to Methodism and to other groups?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that's wonderful about the transition that took place in 2008 when the jurisdiction gave us permission to survive on our own. That's a gentle way to say that they withdrew $100 million of, $1 million, $100 million of operational support. But we embrace that fully, and we now know that we can do that. We have for the last 5 years in a row ended the year in the black. So we are living within our means. In order to do that, though, we have to make certain that we invite and are open to people of all denominations and even secular groups that want to come and have an event at Lake Junaluska. We believe that our job to have open hearts, open minds, open doors is part of what makes Lake Junaluska so fantastic. The future of the United Methodist Church, of course, is unknown by any of us, and many of us are a bit anxious about that. When people have asked me that question about, well, what happens if the church splits? What happens to Lake Junaluska? The reality is we will continue. We have an independent board of trustees that will continue to operate Lake Junaluska Conference and Retreat Center. And as you may know, we also have a 750 private residence community associated with Lake Junaluska. So while we realize that whatever the future of the church will be may impact us, we don't believe that it will in any way cause a major disruption to what we do at Lake Junaluska.
Well, Jack, thank you very much for sharing, and I will continue to lift up Lake Junaluska in my prayers, and I encourage others out there to do as well.
Thank you so much, Terry.
This is Pastor Goodman. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wesleyan Connection. Be sure to check back often for more podcasts.